Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Historic Area Commission meeting. It is Thursday, August 8th, 2024. If we could start by having each member state their name.
Cynthia Batty.
Kevin Wade.
Terry Rodriguez.
Layla Hammer.
We have quorum. So if we want to start by reviewing the minutes, I don't know if we should hold these off until next time since reviewing because we don't have a quorum of members who are present. So I could make a motion to review the July minutes at the September meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Do we have any updates from the Planning Commission liaison?
Oh, I thought I would end up last.
Thought we would.
Okay, there has been a personnel change on the Planning Commission. Stephen Franklin has joined the Planning Commission. And replacing one of the commissioners who had trouble making it there. So that's a good addition. They are very interested in what we're going to do here for the historic area in terms of information sheets and things like that. And so I just gave them a quick update, but we still have a lot more work to do on that. But they are keenly interested. The bulk of the meeting was spent reviewing ordinance 548, which was to change the code around lot street frontage. The problem with the document we got is that it arrived with no explanation and everybody had a million questions and talked about it a long time and realized that we didn't really know why it was happening. And so we referred it back to City Council. We, of course, as you all probably know, Planning Commission cannot approve or disapprove. We can merely recommend, but what we recommended was we didn't know what they were doing, and so probably needed some clarification. So that was interesting. And then we reviewed the comprehensive plan annual report. For the comprehensive plan, that huge document that governs all of our zones and building codes and all that kind of stuff. We have to do a report to the state every year. And so that was done, and the AECOM consultant did a nice job on that. We raised a issue that had come out of the, we'd had a presentation by the Housing Authority of the state of Delaware, which was extremely interesting, in particular around zoning for residential to allow people to add more elements to their property to let, like mother-in-law apartments be built, things like that, which are currently not allowed under our zoning rules. But the state made a good case that allowing that would not only allow more people to live close to their families, but also was a way to help develop generational wealth. So we made a, I'm not sure it was really a motion, but made a statement that we felt that City Council should follow up with exploring that. And then I did my impact report, which you all know what we do here. So that's it for that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. So the other item under new business is reviewing the updated documents from our workshop on June 19th. I think because we're 2 commissioners short, I think we should move that to the September meeting just so we're all here to put our input.
Also, we want to get copies of it to people to look at. Because we had a lot of copies during our work, or a lot of comments during the workshop that, and want to incorporate
getting everything. Okay. With, I think we should probably make the motion to
defer
this item. Yeah. So
Sure. I'll make a motion to defer the the review of updated documents from the 6/19 work session until the September meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Get into the application review. First up, we have 513 Delaware Street. Just for record purposes, if you wouldn't mind signing in at the podium. Please. We just need your name and address, that's all.
Okay. You want me to speak from the podium or?
You don't have to, wherever you're most comfortable.
It's gonna be a little
You
weird.
could do it, Dave.
And also, if I can say thank you for such a thorough application. Appreciate
I used to be a government employee in Taylor Lawrence. Especially, I just want to provide this, this was already in the application, I just wanted to, that's gonna be my talking point. I'll try to keep it short here,
Thank you.
because I think we're largely in agreement, but, I just stand here. Just wanted to thank everybody first for the support I got on 513 Delaware. I think this is the 8th permit I asked for in the last 15 months, so, but that was critical to the success of the project. Just want to talk about the chimneys a little bit. What I had applied for was, to cut down the one chimney in the front and restore the one in the back that has the furnace on it. So we'll talk about that a little bit. So what we want to do is reduce the least visible front chimney. And if you look at your picture there, I'm afraid there might have been a little confusion.
Quick
because-
question, just for
Sure.
my own framework.
Yes, sir.
Is the chimney question is the only question you have for us to look at?
Yeah, that's it. That was the
All right,
permit
very
was
good.
for the two chimneys.
And just for context, it was reviewed as a tier one. The tier one, the work on the rear chimney was approved.
Right,
The demolition and removal of the front chimney was not approved because it is visible from the public right of way and it should be repaired. So as part of the process, since you put in
And
time,
that's
it's
our-
here to appeal that decision.
that's our little contention.
Mhm.
I just wanted to point out, you see that chimney there? That's on the house next door. That's not the one in question. I just wanted to make sure we all understood that. If you look at the picture there, you can see that the front cornice pretty much blocks the view of the front chimney from the street. That chimney hasn't been used in decades.
When we're going left to right, which one are we talking about? Photo, take the sheet back.
yeah, it's all the photos are all the same.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cause any confusion. The photos are all the same house. These are the shots from the street. The only place you can see it a little bit is in this photo here. It's that little bump there. Not the tall chimney, that's next door.
You can see them in the two side pictures, the one to the
Right.
left and the one to the right.
Right, in the side pictures, yeah, but I'm
You
the
really
only
gotta
person
turn
that
your head
goes
to
down
see
the
it,
alley,
though.
so.
No, but I mean, from the street, you're across the street and you can still see the volume of it.
Right. But, so anyway, the front chimney isn't being used. It hasn't been used for years. It's been plastered over. I don't think it's probably ever gonna be used again, although that would be, to my, to whoever I sell the house to when I get older, but anyway, so that would reduce it to a safe level, and then we're gonna do a full restoration, identically as we discussed in the permit on the rear chimney. So, like I said, there's not much utility in restoring a chimney that isn't functional, and you can't really see it that well from the front. Taking that chimney off will reduce the weight and strain on the structure. That's probably a quarter ton worth of brick and stuff on there. Also, I had some concerns about, safety, I'm gonna have workers on the roof for a while doing that, and then you're disassembling the chimney and all that's gonna, create a safety hazard. So I'm thinking if we look at it the way I'm looking at it, which is, maximize utility, and we do the historic restoration on the back chimney, which is more visible if you stand in the backyard, I have a picture there, you can see it pretty well. I think we would have substantially, met the requirement to, maintain the historic perspective of the house. And, long-term, if somebody else comes along, buys the house and wants to put the chimney back up, they can do that. It wouldn't preclude doing anything. We're just gonna put it down near the roof level and put a cap over it. So, that was about it.
Let me ask a
In
question,
short.
and it may not have any bearing on my conclusions, but what is the difference in your eyes between having it be somewhat above the roof or taking it down to roof level and capping it over? What is what do you accomplish?
What am I trying to accomplish? Well, there's, you know, utility involved, and of course, there's cost involved too. Brickwork's gotten to be very expensive. So it's gonna be somewhat expensive to repair that and,
You'd
for
rather take
basically
it
no
down
reason.
rather than the expense of repairing
right,
a cosmetic.
right, and
Chimney.
it's cosmetic and it's something that people aren't gonna see. You know, you can't really see the whole feature of it. Now, the back chimney from the backyard, you can see pretty well, but that'll be fully restored. And I'm using that one for the boiler. It's got 2 heating systems. Now we've got the old boiler system still functional. Plus I put in a whole new, clean energy, heat pump. It, which works great, but, so now I have 2 heating systems, so.
One of the things where we're coming from is that chimneys are distinct features in roof lines and historic buildings. And in your case, they're balanced because you have these 2 sort of elegant corbel chimneys, one in the front and one in the back. And when you look from the side and comes the street, you see the rear one, you see this one, you see the top, but you do see that they're balanced. Now, when I look, and you know, I tried to get a close-up look, you know, but your pictures were great, and I think when you look, it seems to be more that it has suffered from lack of repointing. And if you're gonna take it down, you can easily, you know, it's not as if the bricks seem to be cracked or as if they're looking spoiled or anything like
Exactly,
that.
no, the bricks are fine.
So,
The house suffered from 125 years of
mhm,
neglect, okay? And I spent an enormous amount of money getting to this
Yeah.
point. It's in really great shape and we're having a good time with it. But like you said, with that amount of neglect, both of them need to be completely disassembled to begin with. Okay, they're both getting down to the ground. Then I want to build up the one, but as long as I've got the one down, it has to be disassembled because it's not just repointing. It's cracked all the way through. You can see that.
it looks, yeah, there's some movement, but that's why the repair to it, similar to what you're doing on the back, is something because it is a feature and it's a balanced feature, and I'm delighted that you're fixing the one in the back based on the guidelines and the parameters to maintain that appearance. It's something that should also be repaired on the front.
Right, and I understand what you're saying, but from most angles, nobody's gonna notice. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying, and so I'm thinking, why am I paying for something nobody's gonna notice? I spent a lot of money on the cornice and restoring the wood windows and a lot of, you know, there was.
And I think, and I will let the commissioners talk, because that's why you come back, because you do want to get their perspective. I just want to explain in terms of the advice based just on the preservation component. As you mentioned, you're fixing the rear one and it's visible from, you know, and you shall have a really nice view when you're looking at it from the garden and things like that.
Right, that was the point, yeah.
And so that's why these things are, you know, you can perceive them when you're walking from the street and you can see them and it's not like a gradient. So the fact that it's not being used and hasn't been used, that can not necessarily be a factor for sort of truncating it down. At least you want to be complying with the standards. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, the recommendation that I made, that the front one not be approved. So I just wanted the commission to have both perspectives. before they
Okay, no,
decide.
sure, we're
Yeah,
here to
that's
talk,
why we're
you know,
here.
right, yeah.
That's the whole process working, actually.
And that's why the commissioners live in the town, because we have to give it a neighborly interpretation
Right,
based on the views and values and experiences of people in our own respective neighborhoods. We're always receptive to hear what your motivations are, and
yeah. I just want to spend my money on
gone
what
to
you
a lot
can see.
of trouble to show us it's almost imperceptible
Right.
from the street.
It is, and we all do live in these homes. But our job here as members of this commission, our duty is to the historic district, and our main goal here is preservation. And we have these this is what guides our decisions, so they're not subjective. it's very clear in the guidelines that chimneys are character defining features, even though it is obscured, you know, partially by the cornice. I think as Layla said, it is an interesting feature. They are balanced. It's a contributing building. It's on, you know, one of the main streets through town. And I think in this case, you know, every effort should be made to preserve the feature. Are you, just wanna ask, are you aware of the preservation tax credit program through the state?
I applied for I got one credit, which was the, geez, I can't remember what it was, the development district.
Okay, so this is something that's separate from that, and
Okay.
this is just something this is a financial incentive from the state that's available to everyone in the historic district for certain work. This would fall under that purview.
I hate to think
I
I
would-
missed a grant.
Yeah, it's, so in the guidelines and standards under resources and bibliography, if you go down, like the first one, the state of Delaware, so it's the second item, the Delaware Historic Preservation Tax Credit Program, it has the link there. I would definitely look into that. There's a number of people who have taken advantage of the program in the city, already, and it's a really wonderful program.
You should read it carefully because
I don't know what you're looking at. I'm sorry.
So in the guidelines and standards, so these are available, they're available on the city website. If you go to, I think it's the government tab, and
Yeah.
then you click on Historic Area Commission. It's the
tell
twenty
them what
sixteen,
page it's on.
it's on page 132 of the guidelines and standards, and the first sort of header is state of Delaware, and it's the second listing. It's the Delaware Historic Preservation Tax Credit Program.
And there's a sequence, Dave, that you have to go through in order to get it. So you should probably look at that and adjust whatever you're doing accordingly so that you can meet their standard. I think you won't have any trouble doing that, but if you've already paid for it, for example, then it's harder to claim it back. They
Yeah,
want you
it's
to-
not retroactive.
Yeah, they
so
want you to
have
They
claim it.
changed that. It used to be retroactive, but it's not anymore. If you haven't done the work yet,
Mhm.
you should be able to qualify fairly easily normally because de facto you're contributing building. You're in a historic district and you're contributing building. So already that's the part one, which is fairly easy.
Yeah,
And then the part two is where you describe the work. You literally put this, you put the estimate, and they will then say, okay. And then when they come back, they'll certify that the work that you did complies, and then you
Yeah,
get a
they-
tax credit.
the person who oversees the program comes out to take pictures. I know someone in town who just got the approval. I think the woman came out to take pictures last week, and they already got the approval, and they started the work this week.
Is it a dollar for dollar tax credit? If I spend 10,000, do I get a $10,000 tax credit?
I'll write it down for you.
It's a
Or you can type it
it's a
in.
percentage of the
Long-winded.
overall
you wanna
qualifying
type it in.
costs.
Sure.
That we don't have the word.
You should, it's a really interesting program. You should consider it. And it's also available to nonprofits, and the federal tax credit program is available to businesses that are for profit or, you know.
I did look at the federal one, but it said the building had to be historically significant, which I don't think this.
You can double check if it's contributing. I don't know if that has to be like a key. They have different gradients, but if you're in a historic district and you're contributing to the historic district, you could potentially qualify.
And that's in the
That's
database on the HAC website.
Yeah.
In the, under the historic buildings database, which is also available on the same page, that the, guidelines and standards are available.
If you have questions, call me and I'll
Okay,
walk you through it.
So that's a no, is what I'm hearing?
No, we have
We
to have a
haven't,
vote.
no, we have to vote, no,
You should have the emails.
Okay, thank you.
do you have any more questions for us?
No, I think that was, I think
Okay.
we discussed it thoroughly. I guess I don't want to take up your whole evening.
Are there any questions or comments from engineers?
No, I'm taking your guidance on this.
Are there
Yeah,
any
that's good.
comments from the public? Right, would someone like to put forward a motion?
Put forth a motion to approve his removal of this, small abandoned chimney on the front side of his house.
Second. All in favor? All
Opposed?
all opposed, thank you. Motion disapproved 2-1.
Okay, well, thanks for listening.
No, thank you,
Sorry.
and thank you again
I'll check that
for,
grant out.
thank you again for such a, I mean, your application was really great, yeah.
Okay, well, thanks. Take care now.
You as well, thanks for coming in. Moving on, next we have 80 West Fifth Street. Donald and Denise Dodson. Is anyone? I don't believe there's any representative for this, but it's not a requirement that they be present, so we can go ahead and view that. Would you like to give us
Yeah,
your
it's-
summary?
Who wants you to be their voice and explain what's to be done?
Well, that's why I'm asking Leila to do
yeah.
a summary.
They want to replace a portion of the fence that's already there and they want to extend it towards the back. And they're proposing, you know, a fence, so you can see the picture where they want to replace it to the side, and then they want to extend it at the back and put sort of a higher privacy fence that will be 6 feet tall. And they're just gonna put it similar to the existing fence. So pretty much, I mean, the material conform with the guidelines and standards. It's just because they're extending the fence and that sort of new fencing going around that it would require hack review.
Excuse me, do we know if it's the same material, the same pattern, same physical look that they're either replacing all or just sections? And
No,
is it a
they're-
good
they're-
match on the replacement.
They're replacing it along the side of the yard. And that's gonna be a 4 foot high with the neighbors. And on the back, they're coming and they have a picture of what they're putting on the back, which is more of your sort of the standard,
It's like this, and-
which is sort of in the back. The standard, you know, privacy fence kind of pattern that they're putting towards the back. So they make a distinction of them and the neighbors. And you can see that when you look at the plot plan. Where they show,
Yeah, the higher fence is to block their view of a parking lot, which is very understandable.
And this style of fence, I think, is compatible with the
Yes.
age of the house,
and other similar
and
fences.
other similar fences. It's,
Can you tell me, Leila, what it is about the fence that would need us to review it? Because it seems completely okay to me to do this, but.
It is, but they're putting, the replacement and repair is fine, but they are putting new fencing
Mhm.
at the back and visible, so anything that's typically new would require hack review and
Oh,
approval. So it's
okay.
because of the portion of new fencing.
Oh, okay.
Everything else would have been
Alright.
approved as a tier 1.
I'm okay with it.
do we know the width of the boards that they're proposing to use?
They did
Or-
not, I know they said they want to match the existing.
6
that they had,
inch
and it's
slats.
6 inch
6 inch
slats.
slats, okay,
Yeah,
there it
which
is.
is kind of a
Yeah.
standard,
Okay.
and that was on the last page.
Now, are they also putting a gate in place of a couple fence sections so they can use this as a driveway.
No, that's the other
That's the next
application.
I'm sorry, I got too far back in the package.
Yeah, that's the other application where we need to get more information.
I don't have any concerns
No, I'm
about
fine
this
with
really. I
this.
think that. you
And it
know,
improves the
it's-
property
It's
too.
clear, the materials are appropriate, they follow the process, the information we need is here.
Yeah, and they're moving it front so they can cover the AC unit. Before it was further back, so they wanna move that so you don't see the AC.
Yeah,
As long as they do it consistent with what they've described here, I have no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are there any comments from the public on this agenda item? Are there any questions or concerns from engineers? Okay. I would like to make a motion to approve this application as presented in terms of materials, design,
And location.
location.
Location, yeah.
For a second,
Second,
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
I,
motion approved. Great. And last, we have for the Strand. The only change we need to make to this is that we can't review this as a historic review certificate. We need to do this as a consultation just because we didn't have all of the information that we needed in time.
And I was sorry to hear that you were sick and I hope you're feeling better.
Yes.
Marika mentioned that you
And
had
I'm
been
s-
ill. Yes,
I made him have a COVID test. so-
Better.
Yeah,
I'm
he
glad
did.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
Increased signal readings.
Yeah, I mean,
Not
that's,
contagious.
oh, I mean, that I'm not worried. I'm just so glad that you're on the mend on the other side.
Thank you.
I'll talk even though I don't wear the pants in the family, just to save his voice.
I think you're wearing pants, ma'am.
They're short.
Yeah, that'll do for pants for me.
That'd
but
Yeah.
who signs the check?
Yeah.
She probably does, so watch
Yeah.
yourself.
This is, more than a request, it's more of a solution or needing a solution to parking. We are not living here full time yet, but for a dress like this, we're still moving into the house. And being on the corner of the Strand and Delaware Avenue, we get a lot of people that park in front of our house, going down to the wharf or wherever. And oftentimes, you don't have a place to park. But we have an electric car. And right now, our car is being charged in our garage. So I found out that another person in the area has a cord that runs from their house across the sidewalk into their car, which is pretty dangerous. When you think about it, especially what time of day that you charge. So we're trying to find a way that we can charge our car. And one of the things that we came up with, and this was an idea, was it in our backyard, the last two sections are wide enough for us to pull our car in there and wide enough that we wouldn't be up against our neighbor's house. And putting the charging station in our shed. And then that way, yes,
Shed presently exists.
yes, the shed is the four-seater.
Four-seater.
Four-seater outhouse. It's right there and when we know there's that 4 feet of space that used to be the honey, whatever it was, wagon trail. But the house behind us and next to us both encroach on that 4 feet of space, when we're not objecting to that, we're just saying that we could use a little of that space too, because we can't park up next to the car, you can't get out and charge the car that way, so we'd have to be far enough away from the people behind us that we're not looking in their windows. So I can't tell you how much I've been on the phone, was told that Halco could do the work, and I've been waiting for 3 weeks, and finally I got on the phone. I wasn't very happy, and they said, no, they could not do the work. So they gave me the name of someone else, and I called them, and they said, this is their busy season, they can't do the work until October. So I didn't know whether to pursue other companies, depending on what you think about the idea. I accidentally called a company and they were in Florida. I didn't know that. And he called me back within an hour and told me the solution. It's just a matter of changing hardware so that the fence, the middle of the fence is where it would open. And he said it wouldn't be too hard to do. And when he asked me the zip code, he said, oh, I'm in Florida. I can't do it. So we need to know if we should pursue looking into this. It's not anything we're going to do right now. I don't know how we're going to charge our car. I know that there are places down by Battery Park, but then that's more expensive than using your own electricity to charge the car. So we are just asking for some suggestions. And this is gonna happen a lot, that people getting electric cars, then they're gonna run into this kind of situation. And we always have people parked in front of us, our house.
Unfortunately, it's just a hazard of living
Yeah.
in this area. We face the same issue trying to, you come home with groceries, or I took my cat to the vet the other day. Well, I took 2 of them to the vet and had to walk them a block to get them home. They were not happy. But I just want to say that I really appreciate you coming and talking to us about this. It's why we're here, and
I can't visualize this at all from what this drawing, so.
Well, that's why we asked for information, because it was hard to be able, because if I'm understanding correctly, you have pictures of, so you are wanting sort of to create a driveway cutting through the sidewalk to provide access to your, sort of an alley in your property where your car would then go towards the back and for the.
I made some bigger pictures to just kind of show you.
One question there is I have generally, this is Jeff, you would know, I mean, beyond the fact that we know that driveways and curb cuts must be done in a certain way with brick on the sidewalk, and then, no asphalt pavement and potentially, just grass and two what I call tire tracks to go in the back. Do they need any other authorization to be able to just to cut and have a driveway entrance on the strand like that?
Well, it's gonna be a difficult job, but they've
Yeah.
gotta keep that granite curb. So maybe if they take a look at the granite curb and it's deep enough, you could just saw the top off. And lower it that way. You can't get it too low because you can't interrupt the water flow. And you don't want it on the sidewalk. Then to take the sidewalk down, if they put it at the edge of their property, they're gonna have to be working on the sidewalk, ADA, you're gonna have to take it past the neighbor's house quite
Yeah.
a distance.
Well, we looked at some of the other neighbors that have driveways, and they have the sidewalk they drive over their sidewalk.
Right, you can drive over your sidewalk, but it'll have to be brick and it'll have to,
It already is brick.
I know,
It'll have to be regraded.
please
in a
listen
sense.
carefully to what he's saying, because this is very important to you. Please listen carefully to what he has to say, because
She is listening.
it's very important. What in the brick, you probably. You've gotta slope it down at a gentle slope of just a few percent at the most, so that the wheelchairs can go on it. And then you'll have to take part of the backyard out so you can rise up after you get off the sidewalk. And the cutting the granite curb, we just paved that street where we'll have a real hissy fit if you tear up the new asphalt. So, but maybe you can just leave the block of granite that's there and get a real contractor to just saw the granite. It's been done before, just quarter inch, half inch above the pavement, existing pavement, and then you can lower the sidewalk. But the sidewalk, as you lower it to get it back up to grade, you'll be halfway across the neighbor's house. So you're gonna have to coordinate that with your neighbor
Their
and,
permission.
and bear the expense of doing work that's not even in front of your property, but it's doable.
And then the part where you're going into your property, there are also limitations at what material you can use for the driveway. So you can't just say, I'm doing brick here, then I'm going to asphalt. It would have to be for continuing
Where
business,
this was
it would
gonna
have to
be
be gravel.
gravel.
And it can't just be, if it's new, it sort of can't just be gravel, it would have to be like gravel, but with pavers and grass on either side. And then we'd have to look at the size of the gate that you're putting in, and you're gonna have issues like the direction, how the gate is opening and things like that. So it's gonna require much more detail. It could potentially be feasible if there's no other issue in terms of code about.
I don't
keeping
see that
traffic,
it's
yeah.
not feasible, just as long as you don't hurt that wonderful four-seater that you've got.
You just, yeah, I mean, you're just going to need much more information, you're going to need a more precise design, and some engineering perspectives. I think almost the fact that the electrical, what they can do to adapt what you have to provide, you know, the power for the chargers, that's almost the least, because that's had a technical fix. But everything else, yes, it has to be closely coordinated and discussed with their neighbors and thought through before that can
And
happen.
sir, I was listening to every word you
Oh,
said.
I have no
Oh, yeah.
ego.
I was.
Yeah.
Are
It's a
you-
wonderful idea.
are
We
you
just want you to
thinking-
be careful so you don't get surprised by things.
I understand that, and I'm just looking,
Oh,
we're
yeah, of
just
course,
looking
yeah.
for a solution.
Of course, you're
to how-
gathering information.
and how we're gonna be able to charge our car.
Were you thinking of putting it back where this beautiful little dog
Oh, no,
is?
this is the 4 foot,
Okay,
and this is the neighbors behind us. And they have this, wooden fence that encroaches it, it's 14 inches. And then the house next to us also, encroaches on the 4 feet, and, there's no more 4 feet after here, they have a garden that goes up against this one.
If I may interrupt, using that photograph, how far into that gap between your neighbor
Oh, we would
and your
even-
brick house there that you would park the car?
We
so
wouldn't,
this is the.
we would park
shed.
it in front of the shed.
Okay,
It wouldn't be back there. I was trying to show you that we were not going to use all 4 feet of that part there. But we would come in at an angle so we wouldn't be too close to the people behind us, because they have windows there and they don't want to look out and see our car. So, you know, this isn't the answer. But we need help in trying to figure out how we can, how we can charge our car.
does anyone, to help them, does anyone on the commission
Yeah,
see an apparent showstopper, something that can't readily be resolved by just some planning and some thought, some design?
no, I mean, I think the idea needs much more development so that it becomes reality. And I mean, if you have other questions, you can easily get my email and copy Jeff, and we can have like just ideas or things that might work or not. Or if you think you'd want somebody to come and just walk at the site and look at things,
Well,
I mean, that together, we can, absolutely, and just run some ideas and see how, and then you will need somebody that can actually, or if you could do it yourself, really sketch it out, so when it comes for approval to the commission, this will have to come back to the commission, that we can really look at the documentation and visualize it, sort of a plan, and this is this and that kind of stuff.
You say Jeff, you mean Jeff, the Bertram, is it building inspector?
That's
Yeah,
it.
Gentlemen.
The guy
that
that
gives
gives
you a
you
hard
That's
time
it.
with your
Now
level.
you
Friend
know.
of mine?
Are you related to Dan and David?
Well, probably. My folks landed in Principio, around the turn of the last century.
Well, they're all ministers in Pennsylvania.
Oh, that wouldn't probably be close to.
That would be Jeff.
I'm one of their subjects, their prospects.
I have a few comments. First of all, you may not realize this, but the granite curbs go way down into the ground.
Oh, I didn't
About
notice.
More than a foot, sometimes they're 2 feet in. So you're not, probably not at risk if you have the top cut down for your curb cut of weakening that stone. So, and those stones, my recollections are fairly new. You know, there's.
They were set in concrete, so
Were they?
it may not be as difficult as you think if you can just.
You just bring the saw to the
But
side.
you,
and
but
cut
you're
it
gonna
there.
have to get a real contractor, you can't buy a saw and try it yourself.
No, that's not possible.
Maybe the guy that did the sidewalk in the first place, where that was.
I wasn't finished with what I wanted to say. The water. The water runoff. You guys, can we have one meeting, please?
Oh, sorry.
The water runoff, is a significant problem on the Strand. And the paving is in the middle of the road, Jeff. On the side, it's rocks, you might remember, on the Strand, so it goes down, and the paving, to the frustration of many in the city, added height to the roads, which it shouldn't have. And that's created additional water runoff problems that have affected many people's property, including my own on Third Street. So you should be aware of that when you do the curb cut. You probably need some kind of an engineer to look at it and tell you what the appropriate height is. It's not gonna be easy. It's gonna be probably a higher bump to go into your driveway than you might like, but what you don't want is water coming through there and into your basement, which is a possibility. So, but aside from that, I'd give anything to put my car on my property. So if you could do it, I mean, I think,
You can rent it out,
yeah.
pay off the investment.
Oh, yeah, you could rent it out. He's
I
right.
have a question, if I might,
Yes.
is,
No, go ahead.
the entrance to your driveway, is that on Delaware Street or the Strand?
It's on Delaware
Delaware
Street.
Street.
That's what I thought.
That's the new curb, that's the concrete under the existing curb.
So you have
Oh,
you have a
okay.
problem with cutting the curb, it can be resolved, but it has to be done the right way. You have the ADA compliant bricks,
Right.
and that might involve talking to the neighbor as well, yeah, yes. You have, I want you to appreciate all the steps you have to go through. Because if you can't get them all to line up, the commission won't approve it.
Right.
You can get close, but, so you have a gate, you have a drive, and then of course you have your electrical hookup. Now, is there any contention or confusion or doubt about the ownership of the land where you want to park your car?
No.
Okay,
And we have not discussed this with our neighbors because we wanted to see if it was even a possibility. And if it was a possibility, then we can talk to them about it. But we also don't really want to have to do this. It's gonna cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And, but I don't know. Somebody mentioned there were some charging stations that looked like the old post you tied your horse
Like
up
horse
to.
hitching posts.
That, are they around here? That,
I don't know
See,
if
they
anybody
They
personally.
were discussed, when this was all discussed a while ago, it was one of the options. You know, some places have those, some of them have the ones that retract into the ground and the sidewalk.
Really?
Yes, there are all sorts of possibilities, and that was one of them, but they haven't been implemented here.
But that'd have to be on the Strand side because there's no parking on
Yeah,
your side of it.
right,
and your problem is you don't own the street, so anyone can park there, so.
Well, once there's a curb cut, they can't.
No, but he can't, she's talking about if you have a hitching post to charge,
Yeah.
you don't know who's gonna park there.
Exactly right.
unless,
120 years ago, you took your horse to the stable and feed it overnight, so it's, you have to do with electric vehicles.
well, maybe they have a lock on them, so you can't just go up and
Oh, I'm sure. they
use
do.
them and,
I think the fact that you can restrict people using them, but you can't restrict somebody else coming and parking in front of
Preventing
it,
right.
using it.
but yeah.
Your driveway is a great idea.
Well, it was just a question and wanting to know how we could proceed.
Let me add a thought to that too. Once your car is sitting there, you'll have other ideas like, shouldn't we have a carport or should we do other things like that? That's a whole other can of worms. So I mean, you'd have to bring your project back if you wanted to do something like that, but it's probable that that wouldn't be allowed. So you're not gonna get a garage out of this. It's just a place to put your car. So I just wanna make sure, I mean, you can submit an idea like that and then, you know, whether it's this group on the commission or some other group, they'll take a view, but normally that probably would not be encouraged.
We come from a 55 and over community where you're not allowed to even work on your car in the driveway.
I love that idea.
Have it really, really restrict rules, so.
And I just wanted to add, have you looked at the guidelines and standards?
I did.
Okay.
I want to see if they were worse than what we came from, and they're not.
Well, just in the streetscape section, the only other thing that I wanted to add is typically with parking, especially, you know, your home is absolutely beautiful. It's a beautiful building in town, and you really are, you know, you're really at sort of the center. You're right on the corner of Delaware and right on the corner of the Strand. And so I would consider implementing some landscaping into your plan, just as shielding
Yeah.
to kind of
Be-
soften it. And
Because one of the things that the guidelines do state is if you have side parking, if you're parking next to the building in the side yard, you have to shield it from view. So the idea is
Okay.
people are walking down the street, don't look, and they see a driveway, and then they see, you know, a car. If it's further back, if it's a driveway that goes to a garage, if it's tucked behind, that's one thing. But if it's just going to be sitting in the driveway, then there needs to be a mechanism by which to shield it from
Hide
view.
it.
Yeah.
Another small thought. Right behind your property is a parking lot of the building next door.
We thought about that, and
Yes.
you went back to check to see
We were thinking at one point about asking them.
Yeah, negotiate a right of way from
if we
them.
could.
Yeah,
It's possible.
correct.
They do have some garages, I think, up against the end of your property, but,
You looked back there and there were 3 cars. that-
Well, yeah, 113 and 115, I think the numbers are. There are a bunch of cars back there at one time or another. And we were thinking about maybe asking, hey, let us.
Yeah, well,
park
they-
on the property.
for that, they would have to do a perpetual deed restriction of some kind or deed note to give you that kind of access, but that is a possibility also. You know, that sort of ties you to, is that building always gonna be an apartment building? You know, who knows? It's a very prominent building in the city, the Jefferson House, so it's not likely that it would go
Is-
away.
Jefferson House, oh, you're talking
Oh, I thought
about
you were
across the
talking-
street.
yeah, I thought you were talking about the
It's not
the two on Delaware Street that are next. That's what I was
No,
thinking,
you're
yeah.
The
Yeah,
Kozak
thinking.
place.
Yep.
Sorry?
Kozak place, I think.
Yeah.
And where the Kozak's daughter lives right behind us.
Yeah.
And they have, there's 2 houses together and a driveway and they park back there. And that would be the way we could still have the charger in the shed and have a cord to reach
There,
the
yeah.
car. This is a pretty long cord right now.
That would be a possibility also, you're saying?
Sure.
But they'd have to give
Permission.
an easement or something allowing you to right of way.
Right. So anyway, just other thoughts, you
That's
know,
a good
might
idea.
might be cheaper. Would involve
I mean,
negotiation.
They don't have to
As
have
the
an,
neighbors, they could
you
just.
don't have to have an easement, they just have to have a rental agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a-
Rental.
It would have to be in perpetuity to be worth doing though.
No, you got a 5-year agreement,
I
10-year.
mean,
Lifetime.
who knows what they'll come with electric cars in 5 or 10 years?
Yeah.
Maybe just swapping batteries. They may have capacitors, there may be instant chargers.
They're talking about having them replaced even like in gas stations as, you know, like an expedited recharging. Right. So just like you go to the gas station, you go, but you'll be able to charge it so much faster. That's something
Oh,
that's
yeah.
starting in Europe, that's very much spreading in the.
It is, and those ones that Tesla first made, there's 3 levels of power charges, and that one you
I
can
have
charge
mixed
it
up
for
on what's
30
there.
minutes. Whereas at home, it'd be 3 hours, and then you can also charge it to any plug anywhere, and then it's 30 hours.
Yeah, sorry, I was thinking that this was on the other side of the Jefferson House. It's not, you're right, but still, same idea. Yeah. Okay, well,
Beautiful ideas.
Yeah.
Came to the right place.
It's a wonderful house.
Thank you.
Can we all come visit? We want
You
to.
sure can. It's only half filled right now. We did sell our other house, so we make Sullivan on September the 4th, so we,
Wow,
it's
exciting.
it is, it would be more exciting if it wasn't so tiring. I grew up in Rogers Manor,
Oh, wow.
many years ago.
I'll get back.
Well, you have really arrived. You've got one of the nicest houses in town.
It is one of the nicest houses.
We've been looking for 2 years for a house, and in fact, we were looking at the one next to the octagonal library, and we were in it when the realtor got the phone call, it was sold. And we would have loved that house, but,
It's a
yeah.
wonderful house.
In fact, we bought it without seeing it, if you can believe that or not. When it came up on the market, Chris Cashman called us and said that it had come on the market, and we were in Florida and we were trying to figure out if we'd fly back to look, or, so I had my sister and her husband take a look, and they came through with FaceTime and followed around, and we trusted their opinion.
With regard to the fence, which is a very nice fence, there are a lot of people around who could do work on that fence, so don't be discouraged that one didn't work out. There's many people who do work on,
You mean a company or?
Okay, fly the guy up to Florida and I'm gonna be at the.
Yeah,
Perhaps people, yeah.
but there are many craftspeople around who could do that kind of work for you.
Thank you, and thank you for listening.
No, thank you for.
Thank you for
bringing
being
this
here.
to us. Do you have any other questions for us?
I wrote down, because I had 2 other questions. If we repaint the outside of the house, the trim, the door, and paint it the same color, do we need to come to
You don't
you?
have to come to us.
Not for color,
And how about power washing? Do we need to ask for
don't
that?
do it.
I would be
careful
about it.
Don't do it
Be
on the house.
careful with power washing on
No.
historic masonry. I would,
Ultra gentle.
yes. and
Well,
I-
even the cement, when you come out the
On the
kitchen
ground,
door, is all
it's
green.
different.
Yeah,
It's
Tar
wash the ground.
not the brick.
The brick is soft, it's old brick from the bank building. And a power washer can just destroy it. You can blow the mortar out of the power washer, because it's lime
And make
mortar,
everything,
so you don't really want
We
it.
don't want to
If
do
you,
that.
if you had a hose sprayer, it's usually. okay.
Low pressure, gentle, yes.
Yeah.
You take your garden hose.
Or just scrub
And
it
you
by
wanna keep
hand.
that line
Yeah.
order. Yeah,
Gently,
that's
Gently
important.
scrub it by hand.
We're removing from you
Soft.
the letter if there's sitting green on your side of your house or on your patio or whatever.
Soft bristle brush, gentle, no harsh.
No harsh chemicals, no, what do you call it, acid wash.
Sandblasting,
Yeah.
acid washing.
And it's not to make your life difficult, it's to prevent water from going into your walls and then tormenting you for years after, which is what
I have a
happens.
couple of really great people that can repoint if you find a little spot.
Yeah,
Do not hire a handyman to repoint even
No.
a
Oh, gosh,
patch.
yeah,
no.
You wanna get somebody who works like on the courthouse and sheriff's house and
Very
that kind of a guy. And if they were all like him, we wouldn't even have to talk.
Yeah.
And that would require a permit. If you're doing that kind, that would. It's a tier 1, it's an administrative review, particularly if it's,
Okay.
but yeah, that would just require a permit.
Don't ever let anybody talk you into spraying silicone on the outside.
Oh my gosh,
of your
no,
house.
no, no.
Do not put ceilings.
Don't do it.
Well, the Mark that lived there before,
Right,
he came over the other day and he was talking about that curved part where the stairway was added. And he said, you have to do something to that curved part every 3 years or it'll cave in. And he said he had a devil of a time redoing the steps. Is there something you have to do with that?
I think you need to, and I think you need to keep it really well pointed.
Yeah,
It moves a little bit. It wasn't built this, it moves a little bit.
Have you lived in a
It's lime
historical-
mortar, but
No.
Okay.
And come to find out that the first Farmers Bank president, the one who built it, this was N.C. Ridgely. Same name.
You're meant to be.
Yes.
Well, we can't, there's,
No, we can't, I mean,
Yeah,
it's not as a motion, but I mean, if you have enough information, you have
You've
just
given us a
contact,
lot
you have
of
my
great
contact, you have
ideas
my contact
and-
information, you wanna follow up or schedule something. We can actually meet the two of us in there and just kind of brainstorm ideas.
Thank you for helping.
of course,
Yeah.
and you know, as neighbors, not
Oh, yes,
Never
obviously,
mind.
yes. Hack, but
hack, but
They-
just.
they
as
probably would want
neighbors,
to
we
say.
can-
It was-
Yes, I think,
We're
the
done.
only thing left is, are there any public comments about this agenda item?
Just general hack questions.
So public comments are for agenda items only.
Right, so you're not, this commission does not allow public questions or comments on hack in general.
It needs to be on the agenda, or you can submit, if you have a question, you can submit it. I think the day of until 3,
Yeah,
but
the day of
I
until
think
3
that's
p.m.
the,
But there's no difference between if you can't make the meeting and you submit it up until 3, or you show up at the meeting, same thing.
yeah.
The comments are on agenda items only.
Yeah,
That's fine.
it's-
I just
it's-
want
Just
the
clarification, because it, by law, public comments on related items to hack or planning commission or anything else, that's supposed to be allowed, so
Well, I mean, this
that's not
is-
how you're running it, just
So,
publicly,
to be
let's.
clear, I'm following a process that's already
Okay.
here, and I'm not,
I just need
this isn't-
clarification.
no, and that's completely fine, and I can get that clarification to make sure, but there's also, there's also questions that can be submitted, if you have specific questions about processes and other things, those can also be submitted. You can
It
call
needs
the
to be
office
put-
and ask.
On record in a public setting, that's the whole purpose, that's why meetings allow that.
This agenda is very clear. I think we should
Yeah.
stick to our agenda, or, because we can
Oh,
get in
okay,
trouble
Miss
otherwise.
Commissioner. So how would I put in a request to have that changed?
I don't know, you'd have to call the
The city.
office,
Yep,
or,
contact
you'd
the
have to
city.
contact the city
It's up to
administrator.
this board.
We really can't get in, that's not a discussion that I think we can get into right
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
But I would recommend that you reach out to the city administrator and ask her.
It's up to each commission. I did follow up on that. So you're saying no public comments in general are
That's
allowed?
something that I need to discuss with her to make sure that I need to discuss that with the city administrator to make sure that I am following.
The appropriate
It's
rules.
up to the commission protocol. Every other commission, every other committee allows it.
But you also can understand from a procedural standpoint, I can't just take I
Your
can't
committee.
follow anybody's, we are appointed.
We're governed by our
We're
agenda. We're
governed by
forbidden
the
to discuss
agenda.
anything that's
Yeah.
not on the agenda, so it's,
So if there's
Just the way
any,
it
if
is.
there's information that followed up differently when President's Commission is gonna follow up, then that'll be reflected in the next agenda. If that's an appropriate
Yeah.
way.
Yes. Okay, I'll follow up on it with the attorney. Thank you. Good evening.
With that,
yeah, we'll fill you in later.
with that, if I would like to make a motion to,
Make a motion to conclude this happy meeting.
It was a good meeting.
second,
Second,
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
see you later. Oh, Kevin,
Oh,
did
it
you
was
have
nice
an
to see you,
update on your
Kevin.
engineering contract?
Don't breathe on me, right, go ahead.